All right, in this little edition of DG Happenings, I want to talk about something it's been about a week and a half now since it's happened. And every time I've gone to shoot a video, I go off on a billion tangents because this really relates to everything. As I've said 1,000 times, and if this is the first video you ever seen of me because you stumbled onto it or something, a little tiny bit is years ago I had a sudden enlightenment, I guess you could call it that, beyond a near death experience, where I experienced creation, God, the beginning, the end, all of it, timelessness. But since that time, I've been talking about how I saw an end coming, which doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, it just means an end of things we're used to. But I've been talking about it, and the more and more I talk about it, the more it happens, and I've said this a billion times. But at this specific period of time with the store manager, Cameron, uh, not only have I been talking about the end times and stuff like that, not just because I'm focusing on it, but because there's things need to change. And the way that we make it sound so dramatic is the end times are coming. You know, everything we've known is going to be different. Yeah, good, good. But relating to how everything is not just like I'm trying to compare it. For at least a week, I was pointing out to Cameron about how over excessive amounts of spraying had been going on in the sky, and I have tons of pictures of it. I even shot a bunch of videos, and I figured I'm not going to put them out because enough people are talking out about those kind of things. And I'll get into why I wanted to shoot this video and get it done, because I have my board with a name on it that I wanted to keep on there until I talked about it, because it all just pieces together so perfectly, and most people would try to say it's a coincidence. So I was taking a ton of pictures of the sky and how there's so much spraying and so many X's and lines and just random trails. And we had people come from another store to help us fix up the store. And their names were Annette and Wendy, the main two. Austin is Cameron's brother. And I mean, I could go into breaking them all down, but I don't want to do that. I just want to point out the major things because every part of it is major. This is all universe and form. But in this, I want to explain this exact part with what the windy, when it's windy in the air, things that are going on in the air. Now, I may have said this in other videos, but the alarm code, the safe code, they're literally my initials, just not even necessarily scrambled around, but I'm not going to say them out loud. I've said them a bunch of times on the other videos, and I had to keep erasing them because I keep saying like the security codes and the alarm codes for the store, but they happen to be my initials just arranged certain ways. My initials and my birth, like my dates. It's just the weirdest stuff. It's not coincidental. It's just too much. So here with this occasion, we're talking about the sky and the spraying, and one person comes named Annette. If you wanted to come to the active notion between two ends is 28, so the space that they're coming to activate in this space, and to ETTE, to edit it, to express plus express, to come here and help change it, Annette. And when you feel like you've got so much to offer and you're stuck in a place, you're caught in a net, in a place where you want to talk to real live people instead of sitting here talking to a camera. And the store manager's Cameron, who came from a place where the person who trained him was Linda, which is DA, her initials, LIN instead of lens, things that are looking, but Linda. I mean, these are all just little things that seem so coincidental and so childish, but it's not, because you're always being watched. And this all started happening in such a coincidental way that it's just too ridiculous for people to even fathom the intensity of it sometimes and the playfulness of it sometimes. So anyway, the other person besides Annette was Wendy. And just coincidentally, you know, resonating with every part of it. We've been talking about the chemtrails and the spraying in the sky. And I tell everybody about my experience as much as I can, or as much as I feel the need to. But I'm always coming from a oneness place, no matter where I'm at. So I explained, that I had this monumental or phenomenal, seemingly unique and different than anybody else experience. And she's like, well, if you know so much, then you'll know what's going on. You'll know about Dane Wigington. And I'm like, Dane Wigington, I can tell you what his name means. And I sort of broke his name down. She's like, oh, well, interesting. But do you know exactly what he's talking about? And I'm like, that's not what, like, this Akash and all-knowing stuff isn't like piece by piece, everybody's detail. People resonate in a certain way. And of course they do. And then I explain that and they go, oh, wow, that's interesting. But I'm stuck on these details. And I get it. I don't discredit anybody for that. Her name's Wendy. Resonate that with the word windy, things that are going on in the air. Now, I not only didn't plan on being a manager, I got moved up because of just like my past work experiences, and it's just not a big deal. It's a manager there. So when I open, I literally get together the end of days report from the night before every day. The end of days, the security codes in the safe being like my codes and numbers. Just it's too weird, and I could show you, but I'm not going to talk about it on a video. So Wendy, when the end times are coming, she's not just Wendy, resonating with the word windy. Dane Wigington is this guy that I have this name on the board. Dane Wigington is known for studying geoengineering and exposing chemtrail spraying. Now, if you would say dia, to or from, D, the active notion expressing what's being done right now and expressing Dane Wigington. A wig is something you put on top of your head. There's only one G instead of two, because two would be upon itself. So it's plural, identified, generated, and grouped. Okay, if it's a wig, it's above your head. Identified notion generating. When you're doing something with an ing on it, it's that thing happening. Plus ongoing notion. If you go, what's above our head, identified notion generated. So it's a plural identified, generated, and grouped. Identified notion generated and grouped. Plus ongoing notion. So something's going on above us. And then when you say above us, an identified notion generated and grouped, and then say the word ton, that represents 2,000 pounds, which is a ton, to the thousand, to everybody, blowing around in the sky, in the wind, and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you look him up and find the dimming, there's a lot of doom and gloom in it, but he's not just doing this because he was put up to it. He's doing it because not only does he resonate with it, but he found his calling because these things are real. And these are the kind of things we need to worry about. Not necessarily worry about, but if we want to be physical beings on a planet that has physical ability to interact and survive and thrive the way everybody wants to with it, the true way, then we've got to actually take these things into consideration. So now I can finally erase that name off there and get to doing some other stuff. But do you see how Wendy didn't think that I knew about that? And I was like, of course I know about that. I was like, I'm telling you, I know so much that I'm not trying to be conceited by saying this stuff. If we can simplify all the crap, we'll see that life is kind of easy if we just stop doing so much negative. Sorry, I wanted to finish this video up, but for some reason that board being there, I just wanted to move it out of the way. But see, with Wendy, thinking that I didn't understand that about Dane Wigington, it's so much of a example of where people think that this one person has the answer to this cosmic phenomenon. This is a very important detail, but it's not something that everyone needs to know about to take on with them after this lifetime. It's important during the world living together. Yes, I agree. So yes, I apply my time in trying to bring that to people's attention. But what I'm talking about is so much bigger. And these little things, how it resonates with what the wind does, Wendy's, end times, and she's about a guy who's not, Wigington actually has the word wing in it, Wigington, just take the first IG out, but it's an identified, generated, and grouped thing going on by planes above our heads like a wig. I mean, it's so silly at the same time as it means a lot. This is as simple as things really are. If we don't try so hard to overcomplicate them and try to figure out what's really got to be done. What the real thing that has to be done is we've got to get our shit together and see who's really lying to us and start living properly. It really comes down to that. So that's it for this episode. And I hope you see how just interesting and on point all these things really are. And it seems so ridiculous and goofy, but it's not. It's the world, it's the universe. And there's so much more that I would like to go into instead of just breaking down these everyday things. But some of these DG happening videos are going to have just occasions where people come up and do their most random things and bring up an idea because nobody's asking anything. And I do have a lot of knowledge, but how do you put knowledge to use when all you have is everyday people doing simple everyday things that shouldn't be being done in the first place? And then you got to talk about them to hopefully bring those to other people's attention. That's what I'm trying to do with these. And in the meantime, I'll talk about some of these random coincidental things that aren't random coincidences. So anyway, until next time, peace and God bless.